It's a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing my buddy Heather Smith. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. She's right across the street in Tempe. We both went to Arizona State University. Heather's the oldest of 7 children. Heather is a born leader. She is an author, speaker, founder, and CEO of Results Revolution. She studied business and marketing at the greatest university in the universe, Arizona State University. In addition, Heather has extensive experience and study in personal and business development coaching, has been trained and developed in programs, being hands-on in the field, growing more than 1,000 dental practices in the last 10 years. Heather's innovative and perceptive skills further enhance her effectiveness. Her direct, down-to-earth, no-nonsense, get-her-done approach, along with her quick wit, inspires teams to action. But she's not only all business. Even while traveling the globe producing results for Dental Team, Heather also values and enjoys the world's gifts, like her favorite ride at Disneyland, Pirates of the Caribbean. Mine's A Small, Small World.
Oh, really?
I love that ride.
That thing gets stuck in your head forever.
It's a great song and a great ride. This natural-born leader is also a natural at transforming doctors and dental teams' finest dreams into realities. Here's what Heather has to say about her favorite part about working with clients and partners. I absolutely love what I do because my job is to give you more of what you want and less of what you don't want, and to take complex things that seem complicated and simplify them. I wake up every day to allow people to see the light inside them and let it shine, shine, shine. One of my themes, having done dentistry for my 30-year class reunion from dental school is this Saturday night.
Wow, congratulations.
And I graduated May 11, 87, and I got my dental office up the street, opened up September 11th.
Wow.
So it only, September 21st. So May 11th to September 21st, opened it up. And now I watch all these young kids, and it seems like they always think they're going to solve all their practice management problems if they buy a laser, if they buy a CAD camera, if they go to some institute and learn how to do a bone graft. And I've been seeing for 30 years that the number one return on investment is always to get your house in order.
Great.
I mean, if you're at a restaurant, you can't make money on steaks and salads and chicken. Going to learn to add lasagna.
Yep.
I mean, so you can't make any money in dentistry, so you're going to go learn sleep apnea or an Invisalign or whatever stuff. And I love the shiny objects because I'm a dentist. I have the CAD cam. I have all that stuff because boys have toys.
Yeah.
They're driving the car right now. Podcast is killing radio. Yep. That's why it's so popular. So my homies have an hour commute to work each way. That's why they actually want 2 shows a day.
Yeah.
And she's driving to work right now, and she's only seen her office. You've seen 1,000 offices from the United States to Canada to the United Kingdom. What do you see? Seeing so many dental offices that you don't think she understands her house not being in order. What are you doing for clients? What are the typical problems you're seeing and solving?
Well, it really is like what you said, Howard. It is from the inside out and really getting your house in order. And what I see when I see you do your hands are gripped, you're driving to work, like, are you stressed out? Are you excited? And recently I had this realization when I was in a practice that it's kind of like the deep sea fishing. You know, they have series about it. That's what it is like owning a dental practice and being a doctor. You never know once you get into surgery what you're going to get. You never know how your team's going to react. And so it's kind of like, are you going to have fun doing it and accept how it is, or are you going to cry about it? So first thing I'd say is mindset. That's the biggest thing, is whatever you focus on expands. It's just plain and simple. So if you're in your car right now, driving to work, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't wait, this is gonna blow up, just stop what you're doing right now. If you need to, pull over for 5 seconds and really reevaluate your mindset. One of the things that I like to use, a little tool when I notice that, because your brain kicks in, it's designed for survival, right? It's designed for 2 things, survival and reproduction. But what happens anytime you're trying, mind you, I say trying, because Howard tried to pick up that cup. No, you picked it up, right? So yeah, you picked it up. So you either do or you don't. But one of the things that I use as a tool for myself to change mindset, and I have other practices use, simple tool, whether you get out of bed in the morning. I know, Howard, for me, it's an honor to be here. And I know when I woke up this morning, my head wasn't saying to me, oh, Heather, you're so awesome. You totally deserve to go hang out with the great legend, Howard Farran. No, what it said is, Heather, go back to sleep. Who are you to talk to other people about how to make a difference, how to have more fun, how to make more money in their practice? You should hit the snooze. So instead of doing that, what I said was, all right, because I've studied the brain, I got to change my thinking. So what I do is I actually use the word action. And I don't just say action, but I actually say ACTION. Boom, get out of bed. Because those few seconds that I have when I'm saying it, and I don't just say action, notice I'm spelling it out, changes my thought pattern. So my brain doesn't go into, oh no, you really need that 5 more minutes of sleep. Or, oh no, you know what? You're a jerk, Heather. You definitely should stay in bed. Don't even show up anywhere today. So I use that as a tool. So if you're in your car right now, you need to pull over, just say it to yourself, ACTION, and get into action. The next thing is, okay, so what are my thoughts? And we always talk about like attitude of gratitude and all of that kind of stuff, which gratitude's great and all of that, but it really is getting in action and being grateful and sharing with other people around you what you're grateful for. Because I'm going to say it again, whatever you focus on expands. So you have to change your mindset. But even before you change your mindset, you have to be willing to know that there's a problem and you're no longer going to tolerate the hi-ho, off to work I go. If you're not willing to do that, this conversation will not make a bit of difference. Now, these things seem simple, but guess what? These little moments can actually shift your whole experience of your life, living your dreams, who you are as a leader, who you are as a practitioner, by literally in that moment when you know you have that choice, instead of having the mind go into survival, oh no, I'm not gonna say that thing that's gonna make a difference, or I'm not gonna present that treatment plan, saying, all right, ACTION, and getting in action.
Nice. It reminds me of that song, RESPECT.
Hey, maybe RESPCT works. That's just the one that I use.
I love that. That was my favorite song from Aretha Franklin. So the an attitude. I mean, the problem is not the problem. The problem is the attitude about your problem.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And, so how do you these dentists? It's so unfair because they were told that, to be a great dentist in undergrad, they had to get A's in calculus and physics and geometry and trig. And I'm still 30 years later waiting to use all my math skills. I mean, I sat in the library. I mean, seriously, I sat in the library 1,000 hours just for calculus and physics and chemistry.
It's insane.
So, and then they graduate from school, and then they open their own office, and they don't even know how to make payroll on Quicken. They can't even balance their checking account. So what are you seeing in the field? What are you doing for people?
So exactly what you said is, you go to years and years of school and then you're handed a dental practice. Back in the day, even when you started, it was a lot easier to start a dental practice. You could basically it's really that simple, but it was easier. You could put your name on the door and people were going to show up. But especially in a place like Arizona, now if you're in Michigan, we have more patients per dentist, a little more opportunity. But what happens is in Arizona, there's, I believe at one time back in like 2008, there was 900 patients for every every dentist that was up there in North Scottsdale.
In what year?
I think it was like 2008, 2009.
2008.
Right at the recession.
1 to what? 9?
It was one doctor for 900 people.
In North Scottsdale.
Exactly. So that wasn't even patients. So nowadays, that's just not how it works. But like I said, the first step is you have to actually know that you're the leader and you go first. So you've already put in all the time, the money for school, and then there's the things that you don't know. Some people call it like a dental practice MBA sort of thing, but you were never taught how to run a business. You were never taught how to be a leader. You were never taught the way to educate patients or utilize your team who's trusted to actually educate your patients and have people accept treatment. So that's what I do. I go in and most people think I need to get this fancy laser or I need to do Invisalign, which I love Invisalign. It's a great product. If you have a case acceptance process in place and you're utilizing your assets, which is your biggest expense, what's your biggest expense, Howard?
Labor.
Yeah, your team, right? So really maximizing the human potential and the relationship potential that you have. And so that's where we really focus on. And there's a whole process, a 5-step process that we use in order to get patients to understand what they need, and some of them raising their hand saying, hey, let's move forward.
Regarding Invisalign or a product or whatever, I one of the things I've seen is that if you don't do something one time per week, whether it's an Invisalign or placing an implant, I don't see you making any money on it. You're going to all this continuing education, you're buying all this laser, and you're placing an implant every 3 months. I mean, You know, there's a critical mass. But when I line up my homies,
yeah.
And if I lined 100 dentists against the wall and said, "What is the number one problem?" They'd all say their team. They'd all say people. It's either their staff's driving them insane or their patients are driving them insane because of the natural selection. If you went to Creighton University and found all the greatest smiling people, they were all in business majors.
Yeah.
The dentists and the physicians, they were all introvert geeks who lived in a library. I mean, I bet you the percentage of physicians and dentists out of Creighton that had never had a date when they got into med school or dental school was probably 10 to 1 over the business majors. I mean, I didn't go on one date. I remember twice a girl actually asked me out, and I said, are you kidding? I have a test next Tuesday. I mean, these people are so, I mean, the natural selection, I mean, if you get a C in calculus, biology, dentistry, I mean, you'll never be a physician or a dentist. So the only people that jumped into this party, is that really the personality to lead a team?
I think that, most dentists are, like you said, very methodical, meaning they can work in that small space. I don't know how you do it, Howard. Bless your heart. I could never do it. But and then you have to shift to being a leader or managing a team. So going back to the fact that, okay, how do you do all this? How do you be in all these places? And then what normally organically happens is we go to the blame game, right? Where you're going to blame your team. That happens, just organically happens that you're going to blame your team. What's really going on is that the team hasn't been set up and the leadership hasn't been set up for you to win as a leader, as a practitioner, because you can't be in 12 places at once. So what happens is installing the infrastructure, somebody's going to be responsible for it, or like ducking, and I see this, it's a cultural norm in a lot of practices. It's something we deal with first and foremost, is that everyone's ducking because they don't want to make a mistake, because it's the blame game. Oh no, so-and-so did it, and it's not safe to actually make mistakes or make a difference with patients. So what we do is, first and foremost, is we go in and we install an infrastructure. Now let's see, not because the blame game, but who's responsible for what role inside the practice. That's the most important. Okay, so who's responsible for the schedule, which is the scoreboard, to make sure and ensure that the schedule's happening. Put one person that's responsible for that, you know what, when they're there, that's their main post. It's a post, and so I like to say, like, a post is being womaned, right? Because most of them are women, but that a post, and if they leave that post, they have to hand it off to someone else so balls don't get dropped. Who's going to sit down with the patient, be the patient advocate, and go over the numbers, be the money person in the practice, that they have that accountability. So really setting up the right people.
What do you call that person? You said scheduler?
The treatment care coordinator.
Treatment care, that's the money person?
That's the money person, and all the way from the very beginning, whether it's a new patient, they're their advocate to ensure that patients are moving forward on their treatment. And then right people, right places, doing the right things, and giving your team certainty that they know what they're accountable for. And at the end of the day, that they've had success and fulfillment. They want fulfillment just as you do, to know that they did a good job in their area, versus all the balls are everywhere. And then what happens? Everything's dropping and we go back to the blame game.
Yeah, I think what you said is, the first thing you said was so profound, is your employees have to feel safe. And so many dentists, they shoot the messenger. Like, someone will come in and say, I have a 2-hour cancellation. No one wants to be in the bad news. They walk on eggshells. They have high staff turnover, a lot of dysfunction. You'll see in staff meetings where the doctor does all the talking, whereas I can go into my office and I can say, I got this really great idea and blah, blah. And my assistant, Janet, 30 years, can say, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, because she feels safe.
Yeah.
She can call me. Yeah. Sometimes she calls me the great one. Sometimes she calls me the bald one. Sometimes it's the dumb one.
It's huge.
But they got to feel safe, and they say the mafia say that the fish rots from the head down. Mm-hmm. So when you go in and you see a dysfunctional culture, that the dentist has got to own that.
Yeah.
I mean, when you got people walking on eggshells and don't feel safe and don't bring you problems, I mean, that's your creation, that's your baby.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love what you said, is that in order for it to be safe, you actually put them in these roles and then empower them So you create leaders among leaders, just like Janet, right? Is that her name? Jan. She leads your clinical and whatever. She feels safe because she owns that position. She's like, no, doctor, go over there. I'm sure she tells you where to go when you're in the practice, right? But she knows she's leading that role and that responsibility is actually given. The other thing about this safety part of it is I see it. And I've actually had a conversation with one of my doctors. I had to be straight up with them last week. I said, you're a $1 million practice. In all goodness, that's for some people, that's really successful. They've made it. You're wanting to go to 3 million. Here's the thing. The way you lead as a $1 million practice to the way you lead if you're serious about going here is a way different touch and a way different way of leading. You can't be involved in everything. You have to let go of things. You have to empower the people around you. And your touch, we all have a little bit of, anger, things that flare up. You got to go take a lap because your touch is a lot stronger when you're the big inspiring, your job's to inspire and influence people. When you're up here, your touch has to be lighter and you have to let your management team really support and ensure those things that you see that are going on. So you can be busy being a doctor when you're a doctor, and then you'll have your business time where you'll get your reports, you'll get what you need, so then you can manage. But in the meantime, when you get upset at, say, a treatment care coordinator or something and say something off the handle, your touch is way different, and you're not going to get to go to 3 million. Here's the thing: if you want to continue to play the game 1 million, keep being that leader. But as a leader, you go first. So
I want to say something that my keen ear is picking up on that you might not be realizing. You notice whenever we've had many dental office consultants on this program, and you notice how they always say, if you're doing 1 million, you want to go to 3. Do you see how they always say 1 million going to 3? The average dental office only does $675,000 a year, but the dental consultants, their average client does $1 million a year. Do you get that? So when you go to your TMJ seminar and you're sitting next to people that can't even afford to bring their whole team to the deal, and you're just sitting by, this little guy Greg, and when you are in the practice management world, it's much bigger numbers. And then when you have those much bigger numbers, you can take all the CE and buy all the lasers and CAD cams. But,
yeah, you got it.
Again, that natural selection. There's so many examples of natural selection, like America's for enterpriseness is because who are the most likely people to immigrate from around the world?
Yeah.
It's not the lazy, dumb, and stupid didn't get on a boat and go across the ocean. We had a natural selection for people just crushing it. Again, that natural selection, I know my homies, dentists are control freaks, and they don't like to delegate. Yep. How do you get a control freak who memorized the periodic table to let go and actually let his team do things?
Yeah. Well, I go back to the brain, right? Because I really do know, and I like to look at the physiological and the psychological way of doing things. And the one thing that I found, and I didn't understand, because when I first got into this business, I did all new practices, right? Brand new startups, fresh out of dental school. And then later on, I shifted to existing practices, and that's more so my forte. Sometimes I do new. But anyways, with that, what I noticed is the fear of loss is greater than the opportunity for gain. So if you're not driving, you should write this down because this is huge. The fear of loss is greater than the opportunity for gain. So in a new practice, they don't have anything to lose. So when I'm coaching them or I'm giving them advice, it's like gold, right? Whereas if you're $1 million practice already, you have something to lose by changing your ways because you already have had some type of success. So you really have to notice that as a leader and to let go. And then you have the past too that we're dealing with. So one of the things that we do with the doctor first, but the teams, is we really create a blank slate and stop and make sure that we put the past in the past so we have a wide open space to do anything with it. And how we do that, because we know it's going to come up. We know that leaders, you're going to go to your automatic default is, first and foremost, the leader takes responsibility for how it's been. Right? I mean, that's how you go as a leader. I'm going to keep saying it. It's my mantra because you go first. You can't blame anyone else. Then you let the team know your vision and where you're going. And then here's what happens. It gets created through language, and then there's processes. Most of them, why I've seen, and maybe you've seen this too with your colleagues, Howard, is I see that they've tried to hand it off before in the past, but they haven't done it responsibly. And their team wasn't set up in the infrastructure that I talked about, like right people, right places, leaders empowered among leaders, has not been set up, or someone hasn't been trained up to ever win. The fact that you have a treatment care coordinator and you've had 10 in the last 2 years, guess what? maybe you weren't hiring right, but when you put the process in and you hire the right person, the only one you have to look at is yourself. So that's a big thing. I would hold on to it. I've personally been there in my own business, holding on to things because I hadn't responsibly handed it off to someone who was, one, capable, willing to learn, had been trained up and owning that position. So that's the big thing is when you're handing it off, it's being handed off responsibly. Then people can fly. And then notice when you go back, that's why you have a good coach. Just like everyone has a good coach, the Final Four, everyone had a good coach there. Those coaches are what took them there. And they were always looking at it, but they had a coach to help them get there.
Yeah, and the dentists that are my age, the ones that are almost dead, in 30 years, it's not like they say they had a consultant. I mean, when I'm sitting around with the big boys doing $2 to $4 million a year, they'll name 8 consultants they've had in the last 30 years. And then I talk to you, and you've done 8 continuums at a TMJ clinic. And then I say, well, what percent of your revenues is TMJ? And you'll say, 1%. And then I'll say, well, what is your... And then think about these numbers. The average dental office, 4 people call that aren't patients to get 1 into the chair. Then when you get 1 in the chair, the insurance data knows. For every 100 cavities you diagnose, you do 38. So it takes 4 people to call to get 1 in the chair, and then it takes 3 people to be told they have a filling before 1 does the filling, and then you have a collection rate of 90%.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing they even pay all their bills. I mean, if they could just fix any part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and when you look at it too, you talked about new patients, and that's probably the number one way that people say to grow their practice, right? But when you boil it down, there's really only 3 ways to grow any practice, or this is really any business, and there's only 3 ways, and you want to write this down. Once again, as long as you're not driving. So the first one is, of course, new patients, right? That's the one that comes to mind, whether it's, referrals from, existing patients, or you have a really great marketing program to get specific patients in, depending on if you want to focus on TMJ or implants, or with the right marketing, getting new patients in. The second one is going to be case acceptance. Now, you mentioned case acceptance, is what the average is, 38% or something. Is that what you said?
38%.
38%. So here's the thing is, a third of your patients are going to say yes, no matter what. A third of your patients are going to say no, no matter what. But when you have a case acceptance process in that will help the patient understand, you can get those other third to move forward with the intraoral pictures, with educating them on what's happening in their mouth, and really having the patient hear it multiple times. So that's the third you want to move over. So that's the 66% is the target. So case acceptance. And then, in the case acceptance, it might be that every patient that has malocclusion, you put the Invisalign in there. And that's just part of your process. So that could even raise your case acceptance. I see that a lot where people have done 1 case all year, but now that it's part of their protocol, Invisalign with malocclusion for health reasons, right? Not just the cosmetic reasons. They did 10 cases last month. So you can put that in, just your standard of care. And then the last one is going to be retention. So when patients come in, like you said, those new patients, are they accepting treatment, but are they coming in the front door and then going out the back door? That's the other thing that I see is that they're going out the back door. What are you doing to keep them into your recare department and help them understand the need of coming every 6 months or 3 months, depending on what their soft tissue needs are?
And it's funny because when I look around at this amazing country with 1/3 of a billion people, 322 million people, and they're going to have sales this year, a GDP of 17 trillion, and the only 2 dysfunctional sectors is healthcare and government, where we even have our own words, we call them new patients. They're customers. We say case acceptance. Yep. It's sales. We say patient retention. It's loyalty programs. And another thing about these new advertising. When I got out of school, probably before you were born.
Thanks, Howard.
When I opened up in '87, dentist advertising just became legal. It was a lawsuit in '73 from 2 lawyers in Tucson. Because dentists, physicians, and lawyers let alone pharmaceutical companies, you weren't allowed to advertise. They took it all the way to the Supreme Court. Two lawyers in Tucson. I actually met them. A very cool case. And they said it's free speech. It's a First Amendment right. I can tell you I only do disability or malpractice or divorce or whatever. And the Supreme Court agreed.
Wow.
So when I got out in 87, so 73 to 87 wasn't that long. What was that? What's that? 15 years. Hey, Gregory. There's my number 2 boy. And
met them all now.
So I was like, I took out a full page ad in the Yellow Pages, and there's only like 3 of us.
Yeah.
And we were considered just evil dentists. When you went to a study club, I mean, dentists that were my age when I was 24 would say, if you had prostate cancer, would you pick your oncologist out of the Yellow Pages? And I'm like, wow. I mean, it was a lot of negativity.
Wow.
I got a free dinner from the executive director of the Arizona State Dental Association, telling me all these complaints he had about me advertising. And so, but now 30 years later, shit, everyone goes retail, everybody advertises. But now they're just starting to, they want to solve all their problems with just more and more new patients.
Yeah.
But the Fortune 500, they're all into the loyalty programs. They're all into retention, the credit cards, the airline industry, the Marriott, the awards. And they'll spend 3, 4, 5% on advertising, and they won't even they don't even think about a loyalty program. How do you keep customers for life? And then as far as this case presentation, they even tell you, I hate sales. I'm not a salesman. I didn't go to school 8 years to sell dentistry. What do you say to a dentist who says, that just doesn't sit well with me. I don't like your case presentation, your sales pitch. I mean, it's just not me.
I mean, here's the thing, Howard. You know this. Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. Everything is sales. Right now, we're selling you. Like, that's the fact. Sales is what we do, whether it's a relationship, whether it's, to a patient, but everything is sales. So I think it's completely asinine. Now, I hold off lightly in the sense of using those words because I'm not only speaking to my doctors, which are fine with it because they're business owners and they know they need to pay their team, but teams get turned off by it. But frankly, it is sales. Everything is.
And I don't understand. I mean, sometimes when girls lose all their teeth and get a denture, they kill themselves. And then you don't believe enough in dentistry. I mean, if I said to you, well, I'll do this live to her. How much cash would I have to give you to pull number 8, and you go the rest of your life, Heather, without your front tooth, and just everybody just assume you went to U of A in Tucson? But how much money would I have to give you to pull your front tooth?
Is number 8 real? No, I'm joking.
How much would I have to give you to pull your front tooth and the rest of your life?
I wouldn't do it. I would literally, probably what you said, go to a dark place somewhere, and it's not worth it.
Would it
that's
screw
the first
with
thing
your
people,
mental health if you didn't have a front tooth?
Absolutely.
So when dentists tell me they don't like to sell dentistry, and then they diagnose 100 cavities and they fix 38%, a third. And then they get on Dentaltown and talk about how to do a filling till 3 o'clock in the morning. It's like, dude, why don't you talk about the 2 you didn't do? And why are you talking about how to do the filling? I wish you just removed all the decay on everyone and packed them with butter. Mm-hmm. I mean, they'd be better dentists if they had no filling materials, but they just removed all the decay and packed them with butter or margarine.
I'm just getting a visual of that.
I mean, I swear to God, sometimes I get so mad at dentists, I think, I almost want to tell dentists, if you're focusing on it, it probably is the wrong thing to be focusing on.
Yeah, whatever you focus on expands.
Whatever you're thinking about is probably not even right. Why do you focus on what bonding agent when you don't focus on selling the 2 out of 3? And I love your numbers because I believe them perfectly that they tell 3 people they have a cavity, 1 does it.
No matter what.
And I believe 1 will not do it.
No matter what. Yeah.
I mean, but that 1 in the middle, and that's why you see 2 dentists in the same building with the same number of patients, and one's doing $675 and taking home $1.25, and the other one's doing $1.2 million, $1.3 million, taking home $350. And the guy doing $675, you say, well, what's wrong? It's always Obama, the country, the Chinese.
I have a dentist next door.
Yeah, the competition, the deficit. I go home every night and watch Fox News for 3 hours to justify why I can't just sell the middle guy. the fact that he has a cavity and doesn't want to lose his tooth.
Well, and it's so great that you bring that up because it goes back to the mind. It's designed for survival, so it goes into scarcity. And you're right. That dentist is probably spending so much more attention, wondering and figuring out if the dentist next door is taking his patients or not, that he's not even focused in on the care of his patients. And I created a theory. It's called the pie theory. In most of life, what we do is we have a pie, right? And Howard, you get a slice and I get a slice, and then there's less of the pie left. Well, what we do is we just make more pies. I've literally had doctors next door to each other both increase over 100% in their practice. And guess what? There's plenty. Because all we're doing is baking more pies. There's plenty of people with teeth and gums that need what we provide.
Yeah, and they want their front tooth more than they want their iPhone.
Oh, yeah.
You won't find one girl in Arizona who'd trade you her front tooth for her iPhone. And this was $800 and no insurance. So I mean, they've got the money.
Yeah,
they've got the money.
People find money for things that they want. They really do. And it depends on if we're speaking to what's important and we've empowered. I'm going to go back to the leaders in the practice. Yesterday I was in a practice. A patient called. Been a patient. The whole family goes to the practice. Right. His name's Brian. He's 26 years old. Had insurance. His parents have basically helped him out his whole life. He's now not on his parents' insurance. He calls up. His appointment's in about an hour. He says, hey, how much is my appointment going to be? $265. So what happens next is he's like, oh, I can't do that, $265. What the appointment coordinator said, right, the person that's womaning the schedule, she said to the patient was, hey, you know what, let me put you on hold really quick. We normally charge a $50 late cancellation fee, and we don't want to do that to you. So let me put you on hold and see what I can do. Put the patient on hold, right? We have an hour. Probably not likely we're going to fill that in an hour. And it's lunchtime. So the next thing that happens is she gets back on the phone with the patient. She says, hey, I have good news. We have this new patient special that's $99. I'm going to go ahead and honor it for you today. That way I don't have to charge you the cancellation fee. Patient comes in, so grateful, like you're taking care of me. First time. So not only did that patient pay the $99, but with financing and with the treatment that was needed, he ended up spending $1,500 in that practice. That would have not happened had we not empowered that appointment coordinator to do what she needed to do to serve the patient and have them come in.
Okay, so I've been doing this long enough to where I've seen this happen twice in my backyard. Practice doing $750, hires an outstanding treatment plan presenter, goes to $1.5 million.
Yep.
After 5-6 years, she was tired of making like $12 an hour, and she said she wanted $20.
Yeah.
And he said no. So she quit and went to another one of my friends. That $1.5 million office went back to $675. The new guy who hired her on the other side of town went from $675 to 1.5 or whatever. And then the same thing. And then she after 5 years, she wanted $25. And she told me at lunch at Enchiladas that she's like, I brought in an extra $1 million and he pays the hygienist more than me. But that walnut brain's like, well, you're a hygienist. You have a 4-year degree. You make $40 an hour, and you're an assistant, or you work up front. You're named after a piece of furniture. You're a front desk, and I won't give you more than $25. And then so she left again, and then that one plummeted. Yeah. And now the third home she's at wouldn't let go of her for anything in the world. On Dentaltown, what I was doing when you were talking, I was multitasking. On Dentaltown, when you start the first post, when you post on Dentaltown, when you start the first post, you can actually create a poll. And a lot of people will just flippantly say things like, well, 20% of dentists do this, or 20% do, and I say, well, that's awesome. Can I see the data? There's no data on 90%. People just throw numbers around all the time. Dentaltown has probably done 5,000 polls. But somebody started a poll. Yeah. Do you start each day with the morning huddle? 43% said yes, 53% said no, and 4% said yes, but doctor does not participate. So who's right? The 43% that have a morning huddle, or the 53% that say no? I'd like to see.
So are we looking for who's right or wrong? Now tell me who's successful there. That's what I want to know, and who's profitable.
I know.
So that poll's kind of skewed. I'd like to see a successful practice that doesn't hold a productive morning huddle. that's doing.
You say you would like to see?
Yeah, see one that's doing over $2 million, over $3 million, $4 million that doesn't hold a productive morning huddle or meeting.
You're saying they all do. You're saying
the majority of them do.
The majority that are doing 2 or 3 million have a productive morning huddle.
Yeah, you have to, because there's so many things to manage, and how else are you going to communicate of what needs to happen before it happens?
You know, I don't like to participate in the morning huddle.
Yeah?
For me, it's a time I can go to the break room and go through all their sack lunches and find out what I'm going to steal for lunch. No, this part's not even a joke. Then I'll say, okay, I'm going to eat Jan's tuna fish sandwich. But so you recommend a morning huddle?
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing. Ideally, if it works for the doctor, and most of the time, if you've set people in place, which it sounds like you have, Howard, to have people really basically pointing you in the directions that you need to go. Maybe you don't need to be there unless there's something clinically that needs to happen, which it sounds like Jan actually tells you what you need to do. But what does happen is when you've put the right people in the right places doing the right things, and then I love that you talked about the treatment care coordinator that wanted $25. Well, $25 is chump change if you're making an extra $1 million for the doctor, absolutely. But also making sure that each person has it, I call a partnership plan, where based off their accountability, there's a partnership number that there's more than enough that the doctor hits. We're all partners in this, that each person gets paid on their accountability. So maybe it is a treatment care coordinator and we're paying them $20 an hour. But hey, if we're doing an extra $1 million a year because of that position and how well she closes cases, like I know we just brought in a senior person at one of my practices, but she's worth it, but she also gets paid by partnership. So when the doctor does an extra $100,000 a month, he has the extra $10,000 to give her, and it's chump change. And it's great. She might make $120,000 this year. He's totally fine doing it because we already did the math that he's going to make tenfold times with all of his extra overhead. It's worth it.
Oh yeah. If you knew how much my right-hand man made, my lawyer makes more than any dentist I know. I mean, really.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are saying this. Well, Heather, you don't understand because I'm in Scottsdale. And there's a dentist on every corner, and the people that are doing good are down in Maricopa, where there's only 4 guys down there. And what would you say to a person who didn't do their demographics? Like I came to Phoenix from Wichita.
Yeah.
So a lot of people tell me, I get so mad when they say, oh, well, you're lucky. You opened up in Ahwatukee in 87. Mm. Dude, I didn't know what Ahwatukee was. Yeah. I found it in Kansas. On that, no idea.
It's beautiful here.
When I was a junior in dental school, I wrote the Department of Education, the Department of Economic Security in D.C. and said, what are your job growth prospects? And they said from 85 to 2000, the United States create 30 million new jobs, and half of them will be in these 5 cities: Boston, Tampa, Phoenix, Silicon Valley, and Orange Valley. And being from Kansas, I didn't want to raise kids in California. I thought they were all on drugs and crazy, and I didn't with the snow in Boston, and I hate insects. And in Florida, I hated in Kansas always getting eaten by chiggers. I mean, you can even barbecue outside without looking like you had chicken pox. So Arizona, no humidity, no insects. So then I wrote the Department of Economic Security in Arizona and said, give me all your data. So they gave me, well, here's our 6-year street expansion. Here's our 6-year water pipe expansion.
I love it.
Here's the 80 census, the 85 mini. Anyway, they give me like 3 censuses. We didn't have computers. I took a 6-foot by 4-foot map. I traced out the 303 census tract. I put a black pen where every dentist was, and then I got 300 index cards. And the first stat I started with dentists per people. Yeah. And this zip code 85044 was a dentist for every 6,000. Yeah. And you're in Tempe. There was an area of 6200 South McClintock that had 30 dentists in one building. Yeah. And I was looking at these zip codes in Tempe and downtown Phoenix and North Scottsdale, where at that time there was some of these places had a dentist for every 500 people. So I picked Ahwatukee, and I had never been to Arizona. Yeah. So that's
good choice.
That's because I got lucky. That was
well.
My
you
luck.
did a lot of legwork to just get lucky on that.
Laid on the apartment floor for 3 months after school, putting pins on. Was my luck. So what do you say to these dentists who didn't do their homework and they're in high density North Scottsdale? They're in a place where they don't need a dentist there. They don't need a new dentist there for 10 years. Yeah, well, it's great. I have practices in those areas, and I grew up there. I think every kid that I graduated with is now a dentist. No kidding. Like every single one of them, and all the 5 other high schools that were next to me here, they are all dentists, including all my cousins.
So, you know, and obviously I grew up in a big family. So it really. So
were you Catholic or Mormon?
I was raised Mormon.
Yeah,
yep,
yeah.
you got it.
Big family out here. When I had 4 kids in a BMW, everybody says, okay, you got to be Mormon or Catholic.
So what I found is it goes back to really what you focus on. I have dentists that are right next to each other that it makes no sense, but you have to figure out what type of practice you are and then go in. So there's 3 types of things you can focus on in any successful business, right? And you have to really choose what your niche is and go all in. So there's 3 things. So there's price, there's quality, and there's service. All right. So what I mean by price is I mean low price. So with the low price, right, that would be, let me think of an example. So one example for price and quality. So the same company that owns Gap, Old Navy, and Banana Republic, the same company owns them. So when you go to Old Navy, you go there, everything, like they're running around with their headsets on, but their clothes are like $5 for 10 shirts, right? And then you're out of there. So when you look at Old Navy, what would you say they focus on?
I don't even know what Old Navy is. I know. I saw a commercial. There's a lady with white hair and big glasses.
I love it.
You said Gap, Old Navy, and what?
And Banana Republic.
Okay, I've heard of.
All right.
When you say Banana Republic, you're talking about the Trump administration.
So
Old Navy. I'm sorry. You're using using fat. I'm sure the women dentists all understand or all follow you, but the old men are like, what the hell is she talking about?
All right. So you've been here since '85, right?
87.
87. There used to be a store called Montgomery Ward. Do you remember it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you know about Montgomery Ward?
It was kind of like a J.C. Penney, kind of a lower cost, more bland stuff.
Yeah. So not J.C. Penney, but Montgomery Ward, they tried to focus on quality, price, and service, all 3, and they went out of business. So if you want to have a successful business, you want to pick 2 of these and go all the way in. So with Old Navy, what happens is their stuff's really cheap. It probably falls apart in a month, right? But their price is really, really low. So they have low quality, low price, and they really go all in on that. When you go to Banana Republic is like a Nordstrom's, right? That's more what everyone would understand, right? Where you have someone kind of help you with your clothes. As long as you don't lose and gain a lot of weight, then you'll have your clothes for a lifetime, right? So they really go deep with quality and service. They walk around, hand you your bag, and their quality and service. So inside your practice, versus trying to be like everyone or the people on the corner compete there, you need to figure out which way you want to go. Do you want to focus on being the best quality or the lowest price? If you do all 3, you're going to go out of business or you're going to struggle for the rest of your life. It's just how business works.
So instead of saying Old Navy, Gap, and Banana Republic, I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Please.
A lot of them are very worried about Heartland, Aspen, Pacific Dental. Do you think you've been doing this over a decade, do you think a decade from now they'll be twice as big? Do you think a lot of the dentists fear these people? Do you think it's gonna be like Walgreens? Do you think when these dentists are my age, they're all gonna be working behind the counter at Aspen?
What's kind of cool about what's happening now that I see is what's going in the future is, you're right, there are going to be a lot of Aspens, but the gap is widening. Just like the gap widens from the wealthy to the poor, the gap's widening. So yeah, you're gonna have your Aspen dentals, and we know what they focus on.
What do you think they focus on? I think they have really good demographic models. I mean, they got 700 locations. They go to the poor. They do a better Medicaid and Medicare. And a lot of the dentists that come out of school, they want to do laser, cosmetic, dentistry, bone grafting in North Scottsdale. Yep. And Aspen is seeing this very big gap because people think all the money is in Nordstrom's and Ruth's Chris. And would you rather own Ruth's Chris or McDonald's?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you have to choose. And that's why you have to go all in. And so that's basically kind of what you're talking about. The good news is the gap's widening for those practices that are high quality, high patient experience, Ritz-Carlton experience, Ruth Chris experience is widening. So if you go all in, it's a lot easier to have patients accept a full mouth makeover, an all-on-4 case, those sorts of things. It's going to change their life. And when they know going into that, that's where they want to go. They want to get it done right.
And when you see those offices that are over $1 million, maybe over $2 million or greater, and they're doing these big cases, who is more like, you said they're more likely to have a staff meeting in the morning. a morning huddle. Who's more likely to be presenting that treatment, the dentist or a treatment plan presenter?
So the dentist still clinically needs to go over what's going to happen, right? The dentist is the clinician. They're the only ones that can do that. So as far as clinically, the doctor will, but the actual finance part of it, he has nothing to do with it whatsoever. You only want the specialized person who's way better talking about money. I know you don't do this or anyone that's on here today, but I see dentists and practices all over the world that are giving away money for no reason, and the patients don't even know that they're not charging them for a buildup. So when you take that out, you get to be the clinician. You have the treatment care coordinator that's trained, that's dedicated, that knows, and she's good at what she does, to work it out and fit it into the patient's lifestyle.
Okay, I want to ask you another question. Again, whenever you're talking to a practice management consultant that's been doing it a decade, they really believe that the average office is $1 million because the people that are smart enough to use consultants, they're in that ball game. But when that office is doing $1 million or $2 million a year, or you said they're more likely to have a morning huddle. Mm-hmm. You said they're more likely the dentist presents it clinically, but someone else, a treatment plan coordinator, goes in for the close.
Yeah.
It's called the close. Get the cash. What about PPOs? When I got out of school, I would send the insurance companies a bill for a crown for $1,000, and they'd pay 80%. Yeah. I'd send them a bill for a root canal, $1,000, pay 80%. 30 years later, 82% of dentists sign up for a PPO. 82%. That's 4 out of every 5. And now they're paying me $600 to $800 for a root canal. I actually make So are these $1 million, $2 million practices, are they more likely to be the 82% taking PPOs or less likely?
So you have to go back to the quality service price. Like you said, the Aspen Dental, I do work with those types of practices. It's a different mindset. There's a different mentality. There's different accountabilities for that type of practice. That's why we have to go in deep. Are you going to be a low price practice? Are you going to take every insurance? Great, we can go that route. Or are you going to be a practice that's high quality? I don't want to say boutique. I don't really like that word boutique, but a high quality Ritz-Carlton experience. And you got to go all in. I have a practice that they want to bring on an associate. He's of that age, right? He doesn't want to practice as much. He's growing a lot though. He also has so much work that he can't handle it now that we've been working together. And he brought him in and he's like, oh, how I'm going to get him busy is I'm going to have him take all the insurances and the insurance companies are going to have them call. Well, how many calls do you think we got because that one doctor takes the insurances? Nada. Because you were like trying to put two practices like oil and water together. None of the patients, all of his patients have come organically from the quality, from the referrals, from the marketing we're doing, or the fact that other doctor is just so slammed and productive that he needs someone else to help him. So I think that you really have to figure out which one you're going to go and go all in.
The 3 biggest problems I see, I'm going to start with the first one.
Yeah.
The data on these, when they put in phone systems, so the phone system knows all the phone numbers in your open dental practice management system, so it can recognize the incoming call is not in your database. And when they install these phone systems, the average dental office it's about 3.5 strangers call for every one that gets converted to a new patient. What did and the dentist doesn't even know this because he's so busy learning TMJ and bone grafting and in bonding agents, he doesn't know that 3.5 people have to call the office before who's ever answering the phone named after a piece of furniture can convert her to a butt in a chair. What advice would you give him? He doesn't even know it's a problem because he doesn't even measure this stuff. He knows how many megapascals his bonding agent is, but he doesn't know his conversion rate. So how would you help him? Because he thinks, well, I need to double my marketing. I would say it's a hell of a lot cheaper to double your conversion rate.
You got it. So,
why would you want 3 people calling to one end when you could have two out of 3 come in without spending a dime?
Yeah, well, it's a very intricate process, but you're right. On average, every single practice that I start to work with, when we really take into account that you spent $200 for that lead and what happened to it, and we listen to the training and recordings and all of it, they double their practice without adding any new marketing. It just happens organically. So it's huge. So it really does start with the first phone call, and it starts with the steps of how you get them in. How are you answering the phone? If you're allergic to mediocrity, which that's what most successful people are, right? How are you having your team answer the phone? Something as simple as changing and shifting the brain when they're typing in the notes or whatever. When that phone rings, how do they answer it? One of the things at my practice, how they answer it is versus, oh, hi, this is Dr. Farran's office. Oh, how can I help you? That's one way to answer it. But how they answer it is, hi, this is Dr. Farran's office. How may I brighten your smile? What do you think happens? Two things. One, the patient has a comment. I don't know. How would you answer that?
How would I brighten my smile?
How can I brighten your smile,
I
Howard?
don't know. Most women say to improve my appearance, I should either turn out the lights or put a sack over my head.
So some people will say a funny remark, right? But here's what it does. It stops. So the brain, it's Broca. It stops the frontal brain. So now they have to get present that there's a person on the phone. I've had people order pizzas. I'm like, great, send them a pizza, right? How can I brighten your smile? So just from the very first experience of how you answer the phone shifts the experience for the patient. I've had the patients just laugh and say, oh, that's great, you already did. But just first in just shifting that. And then there's a whole process of getting to know the patient before they actually come into the practice. Because here's the thing, we as human beings, we like to talk about ourselves, right? And the more we get that patient to talk about themselves, guess what? They now know us, they care, they know that we care, they're gonna show up for the appointment. And so there's a whole process to it. And it'll be in my book that's coming out in June. We'll also be going over on my seminar that's in July here in Phoenix. But there's a whole process where you can convert that patient.
When your book comes out, come give me an autographed copy and I'll push
my
it out
pleasure.
on all my social media and all that.
Thanks, Howard.
And same thing with your course.
Thanks.
I'll promote that.
Appreciate
all of that. So to pin you down though, are you recommending that they record their phone calls?
I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Is there any vendors you work with on that, or any systems you like for that?
Here's the thing: is I'm not partial to any. I know Weave is a really good product because it goes into Dentrix. I've had practices that have a lot of success with that.
So Weave records the phone call.
Weave records a phone call. It also pops up who the patient is that's calling. So if it's an existing patient,
and that's from Provo area.
I don't know where they're located.
Yeah, it is. There's like 6 really high-tech dental companies right there by Provo. There's Dentrix, there's
everything's
Weave,
there's a little hub there.
Curve, there's Dental Intel. There's 6 of them.
Yeah. So I know that's a good one. I don't care how you record them. You could use an old cassette tape. Just record them and then review them with your team. But here's the thing: it goes back to the blame game. Don't say, "Oh, you did this. Why'd you answer it this way? Why did you say, oh, we're open all day every day. Do you want an 8, 9, 10, 11, 12?" And they get mad at them because they didn't say you want a morning or afternoon when you have not trained them. Because the biggest thing, and it goes back to what you said, Howard, and what you create for your team is safety as a leader. So if you're going to put these types of things in, they need to know that it's there. They need to know that it's happening, but then also give them the training and development that they need to be successful at it before hitting them over the head with, hey, why'd you answer the phone like this?
So a lot of the younger people, they're an associate somewhere for 5 years. So they're working in old man McGregor's office and he uses Dentrix or Soften or Eagle Soft, and they've only seen one system. And so I know she's driving to work and she's saying, you've seen many practice management systems. Do you have any favorites? Any worse? Any you like better than others?
It doesn't matter. It's whatever they like. Because more where I focus in on is the most expense, which is your team and maximizing them. The systems and parts like that, as long as you have, email, texting, that sort of thing. I'm not partial. I know Dentrix has a really great product that I like, but I'm not partial to that's going to make the game changer. And I've literally had practices before I got there change their software systems 3 times because that's what's going to make the difference. That's going to make them more productive. That's going to close more cases. Well, guess what? It doesn't.
Yeah. And now they're gonna fix their upside down practice with sleep apnea and snore guards. And I'm gonna go to an Invisalign summit. And it's like, dude, just get your house in order, get poised for growth, and then a lot of dentists. And here's another thing: I know dentists who say, I'd rather. And I got a very good friend. I don't want to say his name because he'll get back to Bob Sundberg. That says he'd rather be taken out in the backyard and beat with a stick than do a root canal. Well, if you get your house in order. And you're profitable and you're growing and you're making a lot of money, there's this thing called endodontist, and you can refer out all your molar endo.
Yeah.
So a lot of people do molar endo they hate because they have to pay their bills.
They feel like it,
But then they go buy an $80,000 laser, $100,000 CBCT, $150,000 CAD cam, and what do they have? They still have a screwed up business, a screwed up team. They bought a $150,000 CAD cam. They don't have an HR manual.
Yep.
And they can't tell me how many patients have to call to get converted to someone in the schedule.
Or what their case acceptance is.
Yeah, what their case acceptance is. But what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm going to Tucson, Arizona, which is having the laser academy meeting, and I'm trying to decide which $100,000 laser you're supposed to buy. And I'll say, okay, well, what's your conversion rate for people calling in and see it? I don't know. What's your treatment plan acceptance rate? I have no idea. What's your overhead? I don't know. What's your return on equity? Just give me a flipping number.
Yeah.
And you say, well, it's actually 72 degrees outside.
Yeah.
That's about the only number they know is the weather.
Yeah, it's crazy. And here's the thing, though, is that I think you want to have a pulse on your practice, especially if you're going to give it away responsibly so you know what's going on. And then there's also the other side of it is you can have so many numbers that don't mean anything and run so many reports that don't matter that you're just numbered out that you don't even look at them anymore. There's one number that I'll tell you that will really actually track. We call it our partnership scoreboard, where you can track the pulse of what's going on in your practice, your number of new patients, and it's on one form. And that's where you catch what was presented, how much was accepted, who presented it, and whose room it came out of, whether it was an assistant, hygienist. And it's a quick little step that the treatment care coordinator does after the end of each case where everyone can go and see the scoreboard and then know how to self-coach or self-correct what's going on.
And this is on, how do you run this report? What's it on?
You can so it's an actual separate report.
Oh, it's a,
if you go to if you go to my website, you can download it for free.
And what is your website?
www.results-revolution.com.
There it is, www.results-revolution.com. Resultsrevolution.com. And
so you're right. I think the numbers matter, Howard. I think it's huge that you have the numbers. And if you don't have them, then you can't manage them.
I'm on your which.
It's on the top tab. My mobile though at.
It's on this tab.
Yeah, it should be on there. If it's not, then we got some work to do.
Who are we? Why Results Revolution? Contact us.
Yeah, I don't see it.
But anyway, it's a
it'll
it's
be
a
on
piece of
it'll be
software.
on there when you watch this.
And another thing that's like I was invited to a Dentrix user meeting 2 years ago, and I couldn't believe they invited me. I mean, I can't tell you how much I hate all the practice management system because none of them are tied into Quicken.
Yeah.
So I got all the patients, all the insurance, all the billing, but I got all the payables and receivables over here. And if they were connected, then if you sign up for a PPO and you're getting $140 for a filling, and the lady named after a chair schedules an hour, that the hour would know, it'd go red. It'd say, well, that hour chair costs you $200, and you just scheduled $140. So it'd say red minus 60. So then she moved it down to 45 minutes. Now he's doing it for free.
Yep.
She moves it down to a half hour. Now he's making a grant out of the deal. And so, but it's funny whenever you talk to, go to a users conference, one of the things they talk about is how if you run a report generator on any practice management software system of any dental office, 80% of it's not ever used.
Yep.
The problem with that is when you check into the Marriott or when you check in the Hertz Rent-A-Car, they've streamed it down to these are the 6 things we have to do to check you in at the Marriott. These are what we do to check you out or check in a Hertz. So what we have on Dentrix and EagleSoft is just all this overwhelming bullshit that 80%'s never used. So the receptionist is just staring at this shit. There's so many buttons and clicks. There needs to be a way to close out all this functionality so that if your dental office Hertz Rent-A-Car protocol is when someone calls the office, I want to say, who may we thank for referring you? What is your name, your address, your email, whatever you want, and then make it so you can't go to step number 7 if you didn't do 6. But the way to call Dentrix or EagleSoft practice management software is like calling me a Chippendale. I mean, it's like saying, Howard, did you make all your money hanging upside down on a pole? Yeah, it's called Dentrix and EagleSoft. I think they're responsible. I think Henry Schein's Dentrix and Patterson's EagleSoft holds more responsibility for the takeover of dentistry at PPOs because these dentists signed up for 8 to 12 PPO plans. So imagine, here's Dentistry Day. 82%. Yeah, I sell this bottled water. Well, how much did it cost you to make the bottled water? They have no idea. Well, how much do you sell it for? 12 different prices. It's like, how how does a business go forward when it doesn't know how much it costs to make it, and it's selling it at 12 different prices,
ROI,
all because Dentrix and Eaglesoft refuse to seamlessly integrate with Quicken Online so that all the data is in one place. The payables, receivables, the staff clocks in, clocks out, so it just all be formatted. I mean, you pay your rent.
Yeah.
So now the rent can be attributed to, well, like Southwest Airlines. It has a plane. It's $50 million. It has 120 seats. They reduce everything to flying a chair through the sky for a mile. Mm-hmm. So they have one common denominator. What does it cost Southwest Airlines to fly this chair through the sky for 1 mile?
Yep.
And if no one's sitting in it, or someone is sitting in it, doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
I mean, when no one's sitting in that Southwest Airlines chair, that seat's not being pulled through the sky by a unicorn, ridden by the Tooth Fairy. So when a dentist has a cancellation no-show, he thinks there's no cost.
Yeah.
There's a shitload of cost in an empty chair.
Especially when you look at the value of patient, or like I said, Brian yesterday, that guy, he could have canceled. That would have been $0, and then he's also paying his hygienist for that hour. That's sickening when there was a $1,200 or $1,500 opportunity right there on it. So yeah, I definitely think that you have something huge there as far as, all right, what are our numbers? And then, here's the thing: is I get how you feel about Dentrix and Eaglesoft. I think that there are some things.
That's why I switched to Open Dental.
Oh, you love Open Dental.
If you go on Dentaltown,
and
there's 5 million. There's 250,000 dentists on thing. So you do a search, and I'd like to show that search because that search thing cost me $50,000. It's a Google search appliance.
Yeah.
And then when you want to upgrade it, you don't upgrade the software. You got to buy a new box.
Yeah.
And it's pricey. But if you go to if you search any forum for like Dentrix or Eaglesoft, it's all the forums are just bitching and moaning sessions. But if you do a search for Open Dental, all the Open Dental threads, they all have raving fans.
That's great.
And so that's what I love the most about Dentaltown. Like it's the same thing with the bonding agent. Like if you're getting sensitivity, go do a search for the brand you're using, or just type in sensitivity. And what's cool about Dentaltown is that they're all dentists. They all have 8 years of college. So percentage of dentists. I mean, you can when you sit there and say what's the most popular movie or song or whatever, you're talking B2C, and any hillbilly is figured in on that vote. But with dentists, I mean. It's a natural selection. Every time a dentist opens his mouth on Dentaltown, they got 8 years of college. They've been doing this stuff.
Yeah.
They bought this with their own money. I've been trying to get Open Dental.
I hear your frustration, my good man.
To hook into Quicken for years. And what's embarrassing is they tell me that they listen to me, so they went and they surveyed 100 of their customers. And it was those guys who said that wasn't what they wanted. They wanted to be able to change the font, or they wanted voice activating Perio. and Shine, I hollered on the most with Stan Bergman. He actually sent an MBA to my office.
Wow.
We talked.
Yeah.
She actually spent Henry Shine money.
Yeah.
She actually did a survey.
Yeah.
And then came back and showed me the results. Said, well, they don't even want it. I'm like, are you?
Wow.
So now I'm podcasting every day. So now
We're gonna get this in. We're gonna get this in
because and I just lectured the other day for Patterson at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That was the coolest thing.
Cool.
Yeah. So you walk in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's in Cleveland.
Okay.
Right by the lake. When you're flying in the airplane, it looks like an old phonograph.
Yeah.
The big phonograph thing. So there's like escalators going up 4 stairs, and at the top of this phonograph thing, there's this really cool. Stadium and all that. I lecture and everything. And I was talking to the Patterson reps, and a lot of them, when they're driving around all day calling it, they're big fans of the show.
Yeah.
In fact, the dental reps, driving around all day, they're the most loyal people to the show. And they say that they walk in and they tell their dentist about that. And the dentist is like interested in a different bonding agent, doesn't even know how to run any reports.
Yep.
Basically, so I'm just bitching and moaning. So I'm trying to educate my homies to know their numbers. So I can't believe that the hour went by. In fact, we're in overtime. We're at hour 3, so they're pulling up to the car and getting out. So I want you to close on one thing. I firmly believe, from all the dental consultants I've met over the last 3 decades, that Some consultants like particular problems
Yeah.
solution. Describe to my homies who should be calling you, and what number should they call? Should they email you? Should they just go to results-revolution.com?
Yeah, they can do that, or they can. You can email me personally at heather@results-revolution.com. I'll even give you my number. It's 917-572-4924.
So
I
if
love
you're
personal phone calls.
So if you're at the Circle K right now, going to the bathroom, just right on the wall. 917-572-4924. And which of my homies should be calling you?
So here's what I want you to take a look. I want you to take a look at yourself first and foremost. Are you willing to be responsible for for being allergic to mediocrity in your practice and in your life? If you're ready to make the move in that sense, then you should call me. Hustle up, start dialing now. Don't even listen to what I'm saying. And here's what I'm going to look for, criteria. I want you to be someone who's honest, open, and willing. If you have that criteria of being honest, open, and willing, I can work with you. And here's the thing. I'll take all the friction away. The name of my company is Results Revolution. We talked about me being a results smith when we were talking about my name earlier, Howard. And I'm so confident that I can make a difference as far as your ROI, which is return on investment. I know there's a VOI, which is a value on investment, which is a similar but different thing, is that I guarantee that if you give me $1, I'll give you 5 back. So I'll give you 5 times whatever you invest if it's a fit and we decide to work together. And I don't know anyone else that does that.
Yeah, and you're in my backyard. I called you. You didn't call me to be on this show. I've known about this girl, and I'm telling you, every shiny gadget you buy isn't going to give you a return on investment, let alone guarantee it. I mean, can you imagine if you went and bought a laser and they said if you didn't make this amount of money or more at the end of the year, we'll buy the laser back?
Can you imagine
go on the free classified ads on Dentaltown and see how many of them toys you can buy for half off. There's 6,025 free ads on the classified ads on Dentaltown right now. So that shows you how amazingly awesome these toys are when dentists are selling them all day long for half of what they paid for them. And I'm just going to say it till I'm blue in the face. The number one thing you can do to get a return on investment is a practice management consultant to get your business in order. Get your business in order. Get happy. Get rich. Then go buy lasers, jet skis, CAD cams, and go all the way to the Dominican Republic to do a bone graft. I don't give a shit. I do it. I love it. And I was telling you earlier, I mean, if I had a choice between pulling 4 wisdom teeth or golfing on Pebble Beach, I take the wisdom teeth 100-1. In fact, I was telling her before, my Jen gets so mad at me because if someone fails an FA on dentistry and everything, they fail an FA. But if they fail an FA on wisdom teeth, Jan's like, he's going to do them anyway. I mean, he's just going to do them anyway.
Crazy man.
Yeah, I mean,
crazy man.
I love that.
I love that you love it.
Okay,
thanks for having me.